Welcome back. The homeless problem in New York City and major other metropolitan areas is actually getting worse. It is now estimated that nearly 60,000 people in New York have no place to call home. Now, the number of people living on the streets in our nation's capital is another example. It is on the way down, but more than 6,000 people in D.C. are homeless. Now, back to the Big Apple. The former city council speaker, she's calling for an investigation into the shelter intake system, claiming it turns away too many needy families. Our own Dominic Carter has that story.
70% of the people in shelter tonight are families with children. 25% are 6 years of the age or younger, but they're forgotten. Most New Yorkers think the vast majority of those in shelter are homeless single men. Why do they think this? It's who the New York Post puts on the cover in the most racist, frightening ways possible.
It continues to be a sad state of affairs. New York's homeless population stands at about 59,000 daily. And the Coalition for the Homeless has just predicted the homeless problem will grow by another 5,000 if the city does not adopt new housing policy soon. An organization known as WIN, Women in Need, is the biggest provider of homeless services to families in New York City. And they are raising another red flag, that the city's intake system turns away many needy families that qualify for such services. Christine Quinn is the former city council speaker and the CEO of WIN.
It makes me enraged with anger that somebody could look at a homeless mom and a homeless child late at night as they're carrying 2 hefty bags full of things, because all you're allowed to take is 2 bags, and who has luggage if you're experiencing homelessness, to look them in the face and say, no, go back to that batterer's home. We're going to pretend he's not a batterer. Go back to your aunt's home, which is not going to work for you. Go back to living God knows where.
According to Quinn, of the families living in city shelters, 45% were initially turned away when applying for assistance at the city, prevention assistance, and temporary housing intake center in the Bronx, even though they were eligible and turned out to be qualified.
They could say, we don't believe that you had to leave the place you left and you should go back there. They could say you don't have the right paperwork. Let me tell you, if I had to go to intake, if I had a child, I wouldn't have the right paperwork. They could tell you that your story doesn't make sense. They can really come up with anything. So the city's chasing that glorious press release that exists in the someday that says we are no longer at an all-time high of homelessness. So this is my opinion as the CEO of WIN. They're pushing people away from shelter so the numbers in shelter do not continue to grow. Because they believe if the numbers grow, they will be seen as having failed the homeless. Well, you know what? We have an all-time high in shelter. We have a system that's pushing people out the door who really qualify for help.
Under Mayor Bill de Blasio's Turning the Tide plan, the Department of Homeless Services aims to build 90 new shelters around the city. The Department of Homeless Services declined an on-camera interview for this story, but did issue this statement. This administration has made unprecedented investments to prevent and address homelessness, driving down evictions 37% by increasing access to legal services, helping more than 109,000 men, women, and children secure permanent affordable homes, and streamlining a haphazard shelter system decades in the making, including implementing a host of reforms to make it easier for families to apply for shelter. The statement goes on. While there is always more work to be done, our strategies are taking hold. We're focused on taking that progress further, and we look forward to continuing to our collaboration with WIN as we implement our 5-year transformation plan. Quinn wants the city comptroller to investigate how the city determines which families get help and how long they have to wait for it. In Midtown, I'm Dominic Carter Richard, let's go back to you in the studio.
We'll be right back.